I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to order. My name is Melissa Meli, the spy.
I'm Tyler Riley, cop and a half.
I'm Tristan Miller, the saucy spoof.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/adcpod and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/adcpod.
I remember every time you do that, the copy specifically, Melissa, I remember there was an episode back when we were still in the same room where I started doing it with you, and you absolutely, that was you were like so mad, and it really just proved that I'm the youngest in my family. I'm just like bugging you for the sake of bugging you.
Oh, yeah. I'm an only child.
Yeah. And you're like, I don't know how to handle this.
No.
You're not my parent talking to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, basically.
Y'all listening to anything?
I am listening, finally, after recommending it, to Becoming, Michelle Obama's book. It's okay. Wonderful, and it's very long, and that's okay. Her voice is great. She does the reading of the book.
Yeah, I used to have this thing with the Audible credits of like the book I had to use the credit on had to be at least 12 hours, because otherwise I'm like, it's just it's $3 for a 6-hour book, but it's $15 a month for getting one credit, so it has to match $15, otherwise I'm getting screwed.
Oh.
Which is like an insane thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can justify that, like if you buy a new pair of boots or something and you're like, I'm going to wear these every day, so the fact that they cost a little bit more makes more sense. But with Audible, it's a little crazy.
Yeah, it's a little goofy. Just get a book you like.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, one of my favorite performers of all time just released a children's book called Bubble Kisses. The author is actress-singer Vanessa Williams.
Oh.
And the book includes a CD where she sings the entire book.
Oh, that's
I
great.
believe you can get it on Audible. I know it is being sold through Amazon if the recording isn't on Audible. I'm not quite sure. But I would recommend that. Checking that out if there is a young person in your life.
Mm-hmm. You got to keep buying things off Amazon, so when Bezos has $1 trillion, he might fix his eye. He might finally have enough money.
But, if you have enough money, do you care? I mean, look at Forrest Whitaker at this point.
Yeah, that's what I think so, too. It's like, if he was going to do it, he would have done it 10 years ago. Yeah. Which, that's a power move.
Listen, it's his thing.
Yeah. It's his eye.
Right, it's his eye, and it's also his thing.
Yeah.
I feel makes it less unique if he takes it away.
There's Will Ferrell and his horrific teeth. There's, people with eye situations. And I feel like there's always this, if I make enough money, I can do, I can fix this. And then you make enough money to the point where it's just who cares? I have money.
Absolutely.
Today we are watching season only 1. Oh. Why am I so... Oh god, everything I say today is just unintentionally sad. Like this episode. No, this is This is an intentionally sad episode of the #1 Ladies Detective Agency. Episode 4.
Yeah. The Boy with an African Heart is the subtitle.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we begin this episode. We see
with the credits.
We see Mauro Matsue and standing next to this woman as this hole is being dug up in front of them. can't rightly say at this moment what it is they're looking for, but I will say that it's probably something you'd find 6 feet deep.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
And then we get the credits, Tristan.
Yes. It does give that impression. So then we see that there has been a store, a shoe store.
With the giant shoe stuck to the outside of it. So just in case you forget what's in there, it's like, by the way, we have a massive shoe. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's great. And the man comes in and notices that the whole place has been ransacked and apparently burgled. And
what a terrible word for getting robbed. Like, it sounds so fun to get burgled. Like, it sounds like an absolutely silly thing to happen to you. But like, it's not. It's in fact very serious.
Indeed.
Burgle.
Yeah.
Burgle.
Burgle.
Yeah, it sounds like you're
like a
gargling.
stomach issue. Yeah.
Yes. And so then we cut over to Marumotsue and Mamakutsi, right? And
and Marumotsue has just received this letter that she can't make heads or tails of.
Also, there are chickens everywhere.
Not yet.
What?
Not yet.
I must have been asleep. I must have, like, just pretend I do not see it. I just must have not known. I'll let y'all take it.
She gets this letter that she can't make heads or tails of. It's this woman who has written a poem about how she's being passed over at work in favor of men, which is not funny, but it's funny that, like, it rhymed. Like, the entire thing just rhymed.
Yeah.
And
you imagine?
Is just like, oh, go ahead.
No, can you imagine, like, what it would take to get to the, like, point of frustration that you wrote a rhyming poem about how mad you are about everything?
I mean, talk to Yates about that, I guess. I don't know.
I guess so.
Mamakusi was like, what do they want you to do? And Marumotsue was like, I don't know. Like, this kind of thing happens all the time. To which Mamakusi replies, ah, yes. It must be this glass ceiling that I've read so much about. And it's, like, so precious and wonderful.
Oh my gosh.
Precious. Very good.
Which is Marumotsue's first name.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
But she says, the
so
glass
perfect.
ceiling, like, never hurt you, Marumotsue. And then Marumotsue is like, well, I inherited what I had. If I didn't have my father's inheritance, like, who knows where I'd be? I'd be slaving away in an office somewhere, going nowhere.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, and there's kind of a meaningful look between the two of them, and she starts to backpedal because she realizes she's probably just been pretty insulting to Mamakutsi, and she tries to explain, and then they hear loud sounds outside.
I really want to take that clip and, like, you know how you could, like, edit it to, like, zoom into your eyes? Just like, just, like, absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. So Marumotsue is saved by the sounds of someone beating a person.
Yeah.
And so they have
Saved
to
by the bell, as it were.
and they run out the door to see what's going on, and Marumotsue inserts herself into the situation and is like, hey, explain yourself. I think she actually says that. What is this? Why are you beating this boy? Like, poor thing. And he says, like, he left the door open to my shoe shop last night, and we've been burgled. And so Marumotsue and I believe also Mamakutsi go in, and they look around, and very quickly Marumotsue is able to work out that there is a small window that had been left open, and so some kids came into the shop and, knocked everything about.
because the only thing that's missing is 3 right shoes.
Yeah.
And she goes on this tirade of like, what do you think, like a one-legged burglar came in and like hopped in and like, no, it clearly is just some kids playing a prank.
Yeah.
It's very funny. And she
is pretty
absolutely dunks on this man.
Yeah. So then we go back, I believe, to
the office. And now, Tristan, you can take it.
Oh, right. They're just chickens everywhere.
Yes.
They're just chickens everywhere.
It's like we leave for 5 minutes.
I'm sorry, I just got so horny for those chickens for a sight gag. Love those little guys. Just like they're trying to get these chickens out, and they're just having a heck of a time. And Marumoto sweeps them out using the broom, and then she gets outside, and there's a woman in a very professional-looking suit standing there, and she's very embarrassed. She does some very good like prop work, like hiding the broom behind her back and setting it gently to the side, and trying to be very dignified. And then Hamaguchi just fully throws a chicken. I think she did it overhead and just like full link, just. And then they both have this moment like, yes, hello, we are professionals. It's very good.
Yeah, it's really great.
It reminds me, because I have been on the Twitter as of late, and there was this New York subway video that was going around like the past couple days.
Oh, with the pigeon?
Yeah. And then this black woman just grabbing it and just tossing it out of the door and just looking back at everyone else like, y'all ain't bleep.
Oh my gosh.
Very good.
How have I missed this? That's amazing.
The caption that I saw was like, why do black women have to do everything? And I'm like, yeah. This is clearly a metaphor.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Oh boy.
But we get the introduction to this Greg character played by, what's the actress's name?
CCH Pounder.
And she hardly know her. She's so good. That's actually true, though. I hardly know her. I've seen her pop up, but I'm not too familiar.
Yeah.
She's on like NCIS for like the last 37 million years or whatever.
Yeah, NCIS. She had quite a long arc on Sons of Anarchy. She was on The Shield, and she was nominated for an Emmy for this particular episode of Number One.
That I did learn.
Agency.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
She is so good and absolutely fantastic.
She does a really good balance of being. She plays an American woman who has come to Africa to look for her son, basically.
Yeah,
and she strikes a nice balance of being like kind of off balance by the culture in Africa, but at the same time trying to be, she's making an effort to not necessarily to fit in, but to be kind and to be open-minded, and it's really subtle and nice to see.
Yes. And she sits down with Marumoto and says that her son came to Botswana like 10 years ago to join this commune and then disappeared, and she couldn't get anything more out of it. But throughout this, she's starting to get really choked up, and I'm like, is this woman gonna cry? And then she does. She gets Emmy juice out of her eye holes like the first scene she's in. And I'm like, we got a contender here. We got absolute icon. But yeah, so her son joined this commune that was like a gardening commune, and he went missing, and no one could tell her anything about it.
Yeah.
Like when she went
This commune was all about trying to grow vegetation in desert areas.
Yeah. And there's a man with a very small beard. I remember him.
I love that they say that, because it's like not quite a soul patch. It's a little bit more than a soul patch. Yeah. It's like a soul line on his chin. But they call it a small beard.
Yeah, very small beard.
Yes. But yeah, so they describe all of this, and she does say that they had come prior to this trip to try and look for him. So she came with her husband, and her husband has now since died. And she wants to kind of make a way for herself and move on with her life, move forward with her life, but she really feels like she can't do that until she finds out what has happened to her son.
Yeah. That absolutely makes sense. She even was like, I could either just go to Florida and retire and watch TV, or I can see this through. And I'm like, yeah, you absolutely should see this through. Don't go to Florida specifically now.
You're a black woman. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
But there's the man with a small beard, a doctor, a nurse.
Yeah. There's Oswald Ranta, Rebecca Saloy, and there was also this woman, Clara, that also worked there, and there was also a maid and her husband that also lived on the property.
Right.
Yeah. And so the investigation begins now that she has the people that were involved.
Yeah, so they first go to where the commune was.
Right. It's no longer there, but she says that there are like Mauro Motsue says something about there are echoes that you can feel, and I actually hear that a lot. Also in true crime stuff, like in nonfiction, there's a lot of like, we got to go to the place where this happened. It really does tell you a lot, so it's a good idea.
I hadn't heard that before. That's pretty interesting. Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, if I've learned one thing from Ghost Adventures, it's that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The rest of the setup was like, I don't know. Like, what?
No,
like you have to go to the place. You have to go, bruh, and that's all I know. That's how you solve mysteries. Yeah,
I mean, especially because sometimes the layout of some place can really tell you a lot of, like, you know, a crime happened here, but how did it happen? You know, you can see like where a window was that was open, and like the proximity to the beach, and like how the air feels on a certain kind of night. It really does. It can help you solve it. Lots of clues.
I just realized I got a little bit ahead of myself in this. They do go to the commune, but before that, they meet with Ma Pozzane, who worked on the compound with her husband.
Right.
They go to visit her to see if she has any more information, and if she can take them too. And we see like this really kind of, you know, seemingly unimportant scene where Mauro Motsue and Andrea Curtin, played by CCH Pounder, go up to this woman's home, and she is offered the chance to sit and eat.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks at Mauro Motsue at a point and goes, "Is this okay?" Because like this woman lives in like what seems to be like a shack. On like the like edge of town, and Mauro Motsue responds, you know, she wouldn't have offered if she didn't want us to, you know, partake. Yeah. So they converse, they get to know each other a little bit more. Mauro Motsue teaches her, you know, the proper way to eat whatever dish they're eating. And it's like this really just beautifully quiet scene. Like we don't have much of an underscore in this scene, which is really nice. Like you can hear like the flies buzzing around and the wind blowing. It's really, really well done, I thought.
I liked that scene very much too. Again, with the subtlety of CCH Pounder's performance. Just like, you know, her following Mauro Motsue's lead and trying to work out the proper way to behave in the situation. It's it's really good. Good stuff.
Then from there, I think we get to the commune. And before, when Mrs. Curtin and Marumotsue are sitting down, we get not a full flashback, but we do see like how green this commune used to be, like how much work, you know, they were actually able to accomplish in this seemingly desert area. So when we do arrive to the commune in this scene and see like how everything is in ruins, like there's no vegetation left whatsoever. Everything is just sand and rock. It's very jarring and disheartening, especially to Mrs. Curtin when she sees it for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty...
Yeah, it clearly is past its heyday.
They find a piece of wood with Michael Curtin engraved. And it's when Mapotsane brings Marumotsue over as she distracts Mrs. Curtin by something else because she doesn't want Mrs. Curtin to overhear the fact that someone had built a fire on the commune recently, and Michael Curtin's name etched in this piece of wood was the only thing that was left.
Right, that's what it is. Yeah.
And she relays that she believes that Michael could be alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Mama Kutsi has put together that one of the people on this at this commune is now one of the nurses for her very ill brother Richard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's Rebecca Saloy, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they haven't cut back to her very sick brother Richard in a very long time, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. He's in the pilot, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in the pilot, and he was also in the second episode as well.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Okay. Admittedly, we watched the second episode like a year ago.
Yeah.
It's been
in
February, so, you know, pretty much a year.
Yeah.
Pretty much a year in current times.
Yeah. Everything is in dog ears these days. I don't know.
Yeah. So, yes. So she calls Rebecca Saloy and says, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna need your help on a couple of things, but I need you to not tell my boss how you know me. I need you to just kind of say that I've tracked you down in a different way, and don't give away the fact that you care for my brother, because I don't want to talk about that to my boss, essentially."
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And to her credit, Mamokutsu has also found another lead. She has tracked down Oswald Ranta, who is now Dr. Ranta, who is a professor at the local university in Habarone. And there's this subplot to this episode where Mamokutsu is trying to prove herself to get a bump in title, which is really fun and sweet.
Yeah,
so,
to make assistant detective.
Yeah, basically, when Mrs. Curtin comes in, she says, "Oh, a secretary. You don't really hear that much in America. Usually it's like an assistant executive or something like that." And Mamakutsi, in Anika Noni Rose's very subtle performance, you know, you can see her tense up even more and get really uncomfortable about her title. So yeah, she's on this quest to become assistant detective.
Yeah.
But after
the #1 assistance detective agency,
something like that.
Yeah.
So
the assistant to the regional detective.
So Marumotsue goes to the university and first meets this woman who is presumed to be Dr. Ranta's assistant.
A fantastic performance.
Oh my goodness.
By this actress.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely stellar. You love to see it. You love to see a walk-on role just slam dunk and then never to be seen again.
She's amazing because it comes out that it is her last day. She has quit and she does not care at all about anything that is happening.
We've all been there, folks.
Oh my goodness. She is packing up her stuff. She, like, very briefly tries to see, because, you know, Marumotsue asks for Dr. Ranta, and she's like, is he here? Nope. Okay. Guess he's gone then. And continues packing up her stuff. So good. And Marumotsue decides that she wants to sit down and chat with this woman a little bit more. Because she's like, what is happening? There's got to be something to this that's helpful to me. And so she does make an excuse to take a seat before she barges in on Dr. Ranta and chats with her and kind of pulls out of her that Dr. Ranta is not a good guy. He's a total creeper.
Yeah. And the way she does this is she says, and this is a pretty funny line for something that's nasty, is she's like, you better knock on the door, otherwise, you know, you might find something you don't want to. And she's like, what do you mean? And she's like, he has had a bunch of his students in there, his young women students, and is clearly exploiting them for his own personal gratification. Yeah, let's say that. His nasty business is absolutely nasty.
Ugh.
There's a bunch of horny old men on this show. Can we talk about it?
Well, I mean, because there are just horny old men in the world, and they need to be stopped.
True.
It's true.
They do. This whole sequence is very interesting with the new context of what happened with the producer of this program, Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's very interesting. I was like, that's like, it's just like interesting how the context changes over the years.
Not funny, but like it's like not ha ha funny, but like funny in terms of like I just watched like a bunch of interviews like with people that have worked with Harvey Weinstein. And they all talk about like how he really doesn't pay attention to the products he produces.
Yeah. I mean, that tracks. Otherwise, Shakespeare in Love wouldn't have come out anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's difficult now to see his name come across the title sequence. It is. It always makes me cringe. But, you know, he is a person that had a hand in making this come to life, and the show is fantastic, and the actors are fantastic, the writing is great. Like, there's a lot of good that came out of this show, and I don't want them to suffer because he's, you know, terrible.
Yeah, I feel like he had more of a wallet in the show he made than a hand in like
which is absolutely
a much better way of putting it. Yes.
That's absolutely true. I was reading up about this show a little bit because my girlfriend Christina brought up, like, was there talk that, like, you had a bunch of Americans coming in and playing, like, people from Botswana? And I'm like, well, the rest of the supporting cast is, like, there's a lot of people from Botswana, and they went there. And she's like, that's nuts. But I found out two things. Number one, you're absolutely right. He just absolutely was just, like, bankrolling this thing because he thought it was a good idea, you know, it would make money. And it did pretty well, and it was critically a success. But two things I learned. Number one, Jill Scott was cast 2 weeks before the production began, based off of some poems she wrote and recited, because they were having a heck of a time finding anyone. They were, like, really having a really rough go at trying to find anybody for this role.
That's not that surprising. It's a very, like, you can't miscast it.
Very specific.
Yeah.
Very specific role. And then also the entire town, the set is still up, and you can go and you can visit it.
Oh my God.
As a tourist, like, thing, kind of like the way they left the set from A New Hope up in Tunisia. For tourists to come by.
Subscribe to our Patreon so we can take a trip.
Please.
My gosh, I'm almost crying. That's so charming. I love it so much.
Yeah. It's really great, and it basically kickstarted the film industry there as well. Like they put a lot into hiring local people and local actors, and like it was great. It was great. It did a lot of good. Also, Melissa, since you like the movie Shakespeare in Love, I'll give you an alternative to the punchline that I said of that explains why any Kevin Smith movie was made. Is that better for you?
You know what? It's fine. You can dislike things. We don't have to agree on everything.
No. I enjoy that movie. I just don't think it deserved the amount of attention it got.
That's probably true. It's been a minute since I've seen it.
Ben Affleck is really funny in that.
He is really funny in that, yeah. But
so
anyway.
Yeah, so stop giving Ben. There's a flack joke in there somewhere.
I got it. I feel it. It feels right.
Back to the
show. You broke
Tristan.
Tristan is fully broken.
Like, absolutely gave up on yourself. Oh, man.
Words are hard sometimes.
Yeah, they are.
For real.
They truly are. And, like, you know, you did make me laugh as hard as Ana de Armas does at Ben Affleck. So there you go. You know.
Yes. So after learning this from the wonderful secretary, Maro Motsue goes into Dr. Ranta's office and says that she has people who are willing to testify or whatever against him. She has statements from them about his sexual harassment.
Right.
And so if he gives her the information that he wants about this gardening commune, that he will that she'll, sweep it under the rug.
Let him go off, and I'll say it again, Jill scot-free.
Yeah.
Yep. He's like, well, yep, okay. So we both really liked this woman, Clara, that was there with us, and she was more interested in him, I guess. And we had
in Michael.
Yeah, in Michael, and we had a big old fight about it.
And there's there's a very subtle line that was like, it's so gross but perfect for this character to say. When Maro Motsue is talking about like how Ranta must have been in love with Clara, and he's like, let's tone down the violin a bit.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, oh, you're gross. But like, how perfect of a thing for that. It was such a great line for a despicable person.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was really well put.
I want your opinion on this.
Okay.
To me, the actor that's playing Dr. Ranta here, to me, looks like Willem Dafoe.
Okay.
He has that very, specifically the performance he's giving. He's, leading in, and he's very strained in the face as well. And he has that same, level of intensity also. And I was like, huh.
Like, lots of cheekbone kind of deal?
A lot of cheekbone, the nose.
Very angular.
Angular, that's the word.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looks like he's chipped out of marble. This man. Anyway, but he and Clara, in his words, snuck off to a shack near the beach or something, or they're just a shack a while away. It's not near the beach because they're in a desert.
Just upstream.
Yeah, upstream. And got it on regularly, it seems. Yeah. And then Michael rolls up and is better in every single way.
With his half-baked political ideas.
Yes. And then they go up north for a bit to go on a trip, and then they come back, and it's revealed that they've gotten married.
Yeah, and they come back in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For full dramatic effect. And they reveal they've been married. This leads to a huge fight, a huge confrontation between Ranta and Clara, and he admits to like slapping her in the face, and he's like, "It's not that much," and
The worst.
Mauro Motsue's just like looks at him like, "Come on, dude, like just for a minute be not consistent."
Yeah.
And then Michael bursts in, hearing the commotion, and then somehow
Rantha hightails it off the compound in the middle of the night, where they're like pretty much the only structure around. I say that to say because there's no streetlights in this area, so he like hightails it, gets himself to some covering, and stops, and hears nothing. He hears nothing for several minutes, and then he hears Clara start to scream.
Yeah.
He makes his way over to her to find that Michael had run and fell headfirst into a ditch, breaking his neck.
Yes.
Awful. I'm going to pause there because I realize in what we're talking about, we missed something semi-significant that happens a little bit earlier. Mauro Motsui is able to track down the tracker that Andrea Curtin had originally hired to find her son. The tracker by the name of Jojo. So Jojo and his granddaughter Doris arrive at Number One Lady Detective Agency on like some random morning and relay everything that he remembers about the case of Michael Curtin.
Yes.
Saying that he is well aware that there was a body on the compound near an anthill, but couldn't bring himself to say to the mother what rightly had happened. Because I believe he was also threatened by Ranta as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was. And it's a really beautiful scene in as much as, like, the Jojo does not speak English. I can't remember the language that he is speaking.
Tosa.
Thank you. And his granddaughter,
Yeah.
Granddaughter.
Or daughter? Granddaughter, is interpreting for him. And it's a really lovely... That happens a few times in this series, that they just let the people speak in their own native language, which I think is really cool. It's really great.
Yeah.
That's all. It's a really beautiful scene.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah, because the language in Botswana is either English or Setswana. So it's clear that Jojo is from elsewhere, because that's why...
Yeah.
Just for like the people that aren't familiar with the show, know that, you know, he can't just speak his native language and Mauro Matsui is going to understand because he speaks a different language.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So cut back to Ranta's office.
Yes. So Dr. Ranta has just revealed to Mauro Matsui that Michael had run headfirst into a ditch, broke his neck, and Mauro Matsui goes, and you looked around and you saw an anthill. And he's like, how did you know? And she's like, never mind all that. Let's get back to what happened.
Answer the question, Claire.
And
I'd like
go ahead.
to say, when they say an anthill, you might think of like a small kind of anthill that we have in the States. These are large, like hollow hills that are like meters tall often.
Yeah, if you need an idea, go to Disney Plus and watch Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. You will see exactly what we are talking about.
And so it's a huge colony of ants, which would very quickly and very efficiently take care of the evidence, as it were. So he hit it, I believe, in the anthill, not just like on top of. Like, it's a really nasty thing to do. Yeah. Really despicable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the meantime, and then he says to Mauro Matsui, okay, I want those statements, to be destroyed. He's like, And she's like, what statements? And pieces out. It's great.
Yeah. You played yourself, in the words of DJ Khaled.
Yes.
And in the meantime, Makutsi, back at the office, has gotten a call, or, yes, Tristan.
She walks out of the office, and there's a bunch of flyers from the secretary all over the walls, the hall walls.
This is Marumotsue at the university.
Yeah, at the university, sorry. Letting everybody know that Ranta is a pervert.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And she's like, well, you told me to say something. And it's like, well, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. All right.
That's all.
Cool.
I wanted to make sure we got that in there.
Yeah.
Because there's like a resolution to him being a nasty man.
Yeah, and his face is all over these flyers too. It's great.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Mama Kutsi back at the office gets a call that there has been a break-in it's at the salon, right? It's
BK's salon.
Place.
Yeah. And so she makes her way over there, and she checks it out and realizes that indeed it was the same situation as happened at the shoe shoe shop. Yep.
Yeah, the cobblers.
Where the kids broke in through the window. So she's getting her detective cred in.
Those hours you need.
Yeah.
Now,
was it in an earlier scene that BK went to the office and he had fully ripped his pants?
Oh, right. And he's just fully in his underwear.
Yeah. And Mama Kutsi is absolutely scandalized as Maoru Motsue is like, give me your pants, I'll fix them. He just takes his pants off and...
Yeah, that's what leads into the scene, because she fixes his pants, and then he goes to the shop. He discovers that it's been...
Gotcha.
And then something wild happens, which is he runs after Maoru Motsue's car as she's going to the next place in the case. And he's like trying to chase her down, and she just keeps driving. And I'm like, on what planet? Like, what's the motivation for her not noticing BK, her friend, running after her?
I mean...
I don't know.
She could have had the radio on. She could have... There's, a number of things that could have distracted her from him. It does, it didn't seem like they got the timing quite right in this shot.
Yeah, because he's almost, banging on the car. He's so close.
He is... And maybe if he did bang, she would have stopped.
Yeah, that's...
So we have Maoru Motsue who, seemingly solved that little case of the BK salon break-in, believing that to also be the children of the neighborhood. And she breaks his window, and it's a really dumb, delightful moment where she breaks off the handle of his window, and it's I of course will pay for the damages personally.
Yeah.
She is so good. I love her so much.
Oh my gosh, she's wonderful. Truly.
And Christina pointed this out. Jacked. She's absolutely in remarkable shape, and you can't tell in this show because she's in very modest dresses because that's the character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But she was she brought up a picture of Anika Noni Rose on a red carpet, and she's just got guns. It's wild. I had no idea.
I had the pleasure of being 5 feet away from her when she did the musical Carmen Jones here in the city about a year ago.
Oh.
She was fantastic. If you can look up clips of that, I highly recommend it.
That does sound delightful. She's wonderful. And apparently she is reading children's books on Instagram live.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, so...
That's great.
That's a fun thing to check out. Yes. So, I've gotten all out of order for the show.
Yeah, I mean, we got through all the important stuff before, and I think we are at the point of an ad break. No?
All right.
I wanted, before we go, do they confront the children? of the neighborhood ever?
No, they just...
Okay.
The Kali Hill break-ins, as they will become known, is an arc that I think carries us through the season finale.
Gotcha.
You love to see it, folks.
Okay.
You love to see truancy represented in media.
We like to see corroboration, as the detectives love.
Oh, what's it? Modus operandi is the thing that she's like. So and BK's like, what is that?
Yeah.
What are you talking? I also looked up I can't remember the actor's name. Is he? He has the last name. Is it Dube or Dubois or like
I don't know how it's properly pronounced.
Yeah.
Nor do I. I've only ever seen it written. But he's apparently also a comedian
That makes sense.
in Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like a comedic talent. I think he does like their equivalent of stand-up.
I'll have to look that
which
up.
is fantastic. Yeah. But yeah, let's go to a break. Hello, everybody. We're in the break now. This is the give me a break of that piece of that Kit Kat bar. So you're listening to our show, but you could be listening to more on the Scavengers Network. You can go over to scavengersnetwork.com, check out a bunch of crazy shows they got over there. Like, you got Spooky Spouses, they got Historical Hotties. I only remember the ones that are alliterated. So everyone's got to change their podcast name. If you liked my reference to Ghost Adventures, you might consider it Insanely Haunted, where they talk about that show. That's a newish edition. Go check them out. Go check out their live streams. They're a Twitch affiliate now. Go look at those with your human eyes, with those human eyes. Also, we got merch. They got merch too. You can check it out if you want to buy other people's things. But we have merch on Teespring. It's in the show notes, the link. We have a bunch of new stuff there, which I made. So if you hate it, don't let me know. If you love it, also don't let me know. Just buy it. And we will donate your money that you give us, our chunk of the profits, to a organization that is an organization that is associated with the Black Lives Matter movement. Or if you have a specific one, just let us know when you purchase, or slide in my DMs on Twitter. Be like, I wanted to go here. So I have one more thing to plug. This is a lot of me talking. I do a new podcast with a friend of the show, Tucker Daly Johnson, called Focus Testing. If you think I'm funny, what's wrong with you? If you think I'm funny, you can go over there and listen to Tucker and I make up fake movies based off of a random prop. Tyler, you've listened to the show. Is it any good?
Yes.
Thank you and have a great day.
Yes, and we are on social media also. Like so many of us these days, at ADC Pod on Instagram and Twitter and on Facebook. We also have a Facebook group. Please ask to be let in and answer those questions so we know that you are a human being that can answer questions. Doesn't have to be correct. Just, do your best.
Fill out the form.
Filling out the form. Deep musical theater cut.
Oh, I thought you were just improvising a fun song.
No, it's a real song from a real show.
Is it from Newsies?
It's from Title of Show. Title of Show, a show about getting into the festival that the show was originally in.
Oh, that's fun.
It's a little meta. Yeah. So, yes, get on our social media and rate, review, and subscribe. Give us 5 stars and say a little something nice to us. Makes us feel good. And also helps our analytics so that more people can discover us.
All right. Hamilton Plus is is a thing on the Disney Plus. And I think, if you just even mention Hamilton, people tend to want to listen to what you have to say. Hamilton. So if you're feeling helpless, don't throw away your shot, because you'll never be satisfied if you wait for it. So go to patreon.com/adcpod so you can be in the room where it happened. Or else it'll be quiet uptown.
I want to mash up quiet uptown funk. Here's my thing. We have a new patron. Shout out to Rich. What is Rich's last name? How do you say it? I've only seen it written.
What?
Melissa.
My boyfriend?
Yeah, your boyfriend, Rich. What is his last name?
Gilberto.
How do you say it? Gilberto.
Yeah.
Thank you. Shout out to Rich Gilberto for becoming our first $10 level patron.
What?
Hey, thanks, honey.
He gets to have an ad. And when I asked him what does he want on it, he sent me a clip.
Oh my god.
And I'm going to play part of it for you now. This is what your boyfriend wanted us to do.
Few quick announcements. Announcement number 1. All announcements will be cool starting right now. Announcement number 2. Butt soup.
So thank you, Rich, for being a donator on our Patreon. If you too want to force me legally to play a clip from the hit show Community, go to patreon.com and give us $10. Hopefully that is well within fair use and parody.
I think
if
we're
not,
okay.
I will edit it out in the future episode. Podcasts don't count. There's no one's sneaking around podcasts. It's all commentary,
They
so whatever.
Do not care about this particular podcast. Almost guaranteed 100%.
Hey. Dan Harmon might be listening right now.
If Dan Harmon, if you are listening right now, thank you.
Yeah. Sure. Chevy Chase might be listening to us.
Please don't.
Oh god.
Please turn off your computer right now, sir.
Like he knows how to operate a computer.
I know he can certainly turn it on and off, I am sure, at the very least. Turn the whole thing off. Don't turn it, just turn the whole thing off and step
Just
away.
throw it in the garbage. Throw it in the garbage. Sorry, I kind of hijacked your Patreon plug, Tyler, but I have a question for you. What are there are other levels. We discussed the $10 level. What are the other things people can?
Sure, why don't you take it away, Tristan? No.
Okay, so on the $1
I mean, Tyler only had about, 36 more Hamilton song title.
I had a
puns
whole
prepared.
list up. And it's been soiled. So for $3 a month, you can be a private investigator. For $1 a month, you can be an amateur sleuth.
What are the benefits?
At a $3 level, you can receive early access to all the shows plus bonus episodes and content. And at the $1 level, you receive access to the bonus episodes and content, but you receive no early access.
No early access for you.
And
Just,
wrapping up the ad break, this Tuesday on Instagram, at It's Tyler Riley, all one word. This week's episode of #Tune Tuesday will welcome guest. I believe she is an actress, a director. I believe she transcribes things part-time. I'm having trouble remembering the name.
It's me, Tyler. It's me.
Oh, Melissa Meli from Amateur Detective Club, among
That's
many
right.
other things.
Yes, it's me.
I'll just I guess I'll have to tune in and silently weep and hope for my own episode someday.
Yeah, maybe don't interrupt my ad break, Tristan.
I mean, that's fair. You were going nonstop with it, and then,
Yeah.
All good. I'll have you on at some point. We'll
Don't
figure
worry.
it out.
How are you gonna do Dear Theodosia? I want to know that. How are you gonna incorporate that?
You can write to your Dear Theodosia during an ad break for $10.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you crushed it. I just absolutely derailed it. Back to the show.
Yeah, let's do it.
Lisa back. Okay.
Boy, wow. So
Waking you up.
When last we left our heroes.
Yeah. We had left Dr. Ranta's office. Madame Watsui had left Dr. Ranta's office, but not after he explained that Clara, last he heard, had been working at a hotel in another part of the country.
Right.
So
Yes.
Madame Watsui meets with Mrs. Curtin at the hotel in which she is staying. And she has a rather uncomfortable conversation with Mrs. Curtin, asking her essentially if someone had been found to have done something wrong but felt very sorry about what they've done, could she see any possibility in which she forgives that person? And Mrs. Curtin, much like I would, was like, nah, I want justice. I'm an American, and that is what we believe in. And Madame Matsui is like, yes, I understand, and many people here would also agree with that. But here in Africa, and I'm loosely paraphrasing, here in Africa, we try to forgive as best we can. Mm-hmm. When someone is truly, truly sorry for what they have done wrong. So, with that in mind, Madame Matsui sets off to the hotel in which she believes Clara to be working.
Yeah, and there's this beautiful sequence of someone who's clearly not Jill Scott driving the car down these roads. It's very fun. But the music in this sequence is absolutely gorgeous. Highly recommend trying to find the soundtrack and listening to that particular track. That's all.
Oh, then she arrives to the hotel where she sees this young boy painting some rocks outside. She gets...
Yeah. Why? Is it like part of the hotel maintenance? Is he just doing it for fun?
Why not?
What do you think?
Why not just paint a rock?
Yeah, I know. I'm like... I wanted to hear your theory.
I didn't think that hard about it. I was like,
oh,
he's
really?
painting rocks, and I moved on.
All right. Okay.
Yep.
Sometimes you just gotta paint a rock, folks.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
Did you have an idea?
No, I was just literally wondering. I was like, is he bored? Is he helping out the... Like, are the rocks supposed to be white? Or, like, what's going on? Because he's just like... So he's not, like, drawing on them. He's just, like, fully... painting them, right?
No?
I mean, maybe it's like the border of a flower bed or something, or like in
Or
lieu of a curb, maybe.
Mm-hmm. He's doing a primer, and then he's gonna go back and he's gonna draw on it. Yeah, it's just like something I thought about.
Okay.
I was thinking, like, I'm not dunking on this child for having a good time with his rocks. I used to do the same thing. You ever have a pocket full of rocks? There's no feeling better.
We'll come back to that.
Rock pocket. I got a pocket full of rocks.
Oh man, I would have preferred that to be the song in the card that the central character in Easy A opens.
I got a rock. Remember the Peanuts Halloween special?
Oh, is that a thing? I forgot.
Yeah, the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Well, yes, I'm familiar, but I didn't remember the rock part.
Oh, they go trick-or-treating and everybody gives Charlie Brown a rock.
Oh.
It's the saddest thing in the world.
Oh, boy.
Ugh. I felt that right where I live.
Oh, no. That's terrible.
As a child. I'm like, dang. Dang it.
So there's
Be
a
nice to this
child.
kid. Yeah.
Speaking of children.
I have a child.
Yes. At the hotel. And then she goes to speak with Clara.
Well, she asked a very important question
Okay.
before she meets with Clara.
Oh.
And she asks, do you know where I can find Michael Curtin? And he says, I am Michael Curtin.
Yeah.
And she
And then
smiles.
a Roman soldier pops up and goes, no, I am Michael Curtin. No, I am Michael Curtin.
And then Clara comes out and was like, "Who are you? Talking to my son. Can I help you?"
Yeah. Great mother.
Yeah. And we, kind of get the latter part of the conversation that we cut to, where she reveals that the big thing that she wanted to tell Ranta, in addition to the fact that she had snuck off and gotten married to Michael Curtin, was that she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And she didn't even get the chance to reveal that based on the way that Ranta reacted to the first bit of news.
Yeah.
She also reveals that Ranta had tried to get her to help him move Michael's body after Michael had broken his neck, and she refused and wanted nothing more to do with this, and was obviously heartbroken at the death of her husband. Like, they'd only been married hours, it seemed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she ran away, as Ranta had intimidated her into believing that, if anyone had found out, that she would go to jail. So thinking of herself and her child, she just got away and never spoke of it again. And a few weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, Michael Curtin Jr. had started asking questions about his father. So she took him to the commune. She started the fire nearby, and Michael had carved his name in that piece of wood. They were there to kind of, for her to share memories of Michael's father with him in that moment, to try to give him some idea of the kind of man that his father was and wanted to be.
It's super sweet and sad.
Yeah.
Marumatsu then relays that, it's going to be difficult, but, like, you're going to have to talk to Michael's mother.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to know what happened to her son.
Yeah.
And it was either... oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It was either on the way to the hotel or on the way back to the hotel. Marumatsu stops on the side of the road to this merchant and purchases like this small little basket with this really beautiful pattern on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the way to.
Okay.
Because she's asking for directions.
That's right.
To the hotel. Which the hotel isn't like a Holiday Inn, hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. It's like a ranch style, like almost you would think like a B&B or a touristy sort of hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really quite beautiful.
It is.
Then they go back to the town, right?
Yeah.
To talk to
the mother. To give
Mrs. Curtin.
Clara that space to talk to Andrea.
Yeah.
And during that time, Marumatsu brings over that branch that Michael had carved his name into over to the boy and tells him like to hold on to it because this is how we all came together, and gives him the little
basket.
Basket, yeah. So that he can give it as a gift to his grandmother, who he'll meet for the first time. And BK, seeing this, asks the boy, like, oh, do you know what the pattern means? And would you like to know? And they go off and have a little chat.
Yeah, it's great. So Clara meets Mrs. Curtin and is able to, talk to her about what happened to Michael. And then the little boy comes over and he gives her the basket and explains the story of what the pattern means. And it is
the saddest thing.
so sweet and sad, but really, really heartwarming. They make a really lovely connection.
The patterns are the tears that a giraffe weeps, because the giraffe can do nothing but weep, and that is the only thing a giraffe can contribute to society, is basically the summation of the story. And I'm like, damn.
I mean, yeah, it is kind of like messed up, but like
It's
we
very
all
sweet.
have like all the stories we
Yeah.
grew up with, like kind of
Oh,
messed
for
up
sure.
in their own ways.
Yeah. Don't get me started about the Brothers Grimm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of like, but the point of the story is that like even tears have their place,
Yeah.
even everyone has their own place, and it's really a beautiful sentiment. It's just like really weird to to hear a child say, "Oh, a giraffe can only weep."
Yeah.
That is all they can do, which is also beautiful because earlier in the episode, there are some giraffes that Andrea and Maruo Matsue run into, and they're fighting.
Yeah.
And there's this fun one-liner of like, "Why are they fighting?" And she goes, "Oh, they're both male." And she's like, "Isn't that?" And that thematically also ties into everything. It's a nice, solid bit of writing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Giraffes are amazing. I love them so much.
They're so weird.
Oh yeah, but they're really fun.
I love that there was a point in time, and I fully understand why this was the way that it was, where people were like, unfortunately, like killing and stuffing animals and bringing them back to like the States for scientific purposes. To be like, by the way, have you heard of this animal called a giraffe?
Right.
And a lot of the time, or they were bringing them back in cages. And a lot of the time, there was just like, people would just not believe it. Like, for example, with the platypus, they were like, come on, dude, don't make something up. It's our job as scientists to observe and like write down. Don't just make a hoax. And they're like, no, I swear to God, it's real. And I think there was a similar thing with the giraffe because they're like, this is insane. This animal can't be real.
Yeah.
Ditto an elephant.
Yeah.
But they're pretty fantastic. I've fed
Yeah, beautiful
giraffes.
creatures.
I have fed a couple giraffes.
Ooh.
They
They got that weird long tongue.
Oh yeah, they do. They love lettuce. Oh my goodness. I actually fed some giraffes that one of them was real greedy. And like I was trying to feed the other giraffes and he kept nosing his way in.
That's cute.
It was great.
Yeah.
I love animals. I love wildlife refuges. Refuges.
Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, refuges.
Yeah. Reserves,
Yes,
such like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much more than like a zoo,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's also a couple of rhinos in this episode, too, which is this really cool thing of, like, it's when she's, I think, going to the hotel and she's in her terrible, terrible car. And even Andrea at one point is like, is this thing gonna run? And she's like, yes, it'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And she drives past some rhinos, and it's just this beautiful thing of, like, oh, just both of these things can coexist.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting.
Yeah,
You
it's
just don't want to, like, get in the path of a rhino.
Right.
You know? Because
It's just interesting, like
they're just very big.
you go up north, like to Maine and Massachusetts, and like you can see moose just as easily as like they can probably see rhinos and giraffes. Like it's just such like
Absolutely.
a weird dichotomy.
Then Marumoto and Mamakutsu are talking, right?
Yes, I believe so. And Marumotsue says, I would like to, you did a really great job tracking down Rebecca Saloy and doing all this good work, and I would like to promote you to amateur detective. No, assistant detective. And she says, I didn't come by this honestly. I cannot possibly accept there has been something I'm keeping from you. And she is very emotional as she tells Marumotsue about her brother. And everyone is on the verge of tears, myself included.
I did cry.
As she relates this story about her very sick brother. And I'm gonna cry now. And Marumotsue tells her, of course, that she has her full support. She's so glad she told her, and she would be extremely honored if she would accept the position that she has earned of assistant detective.
What I will say is this. Before they get to this, it's a beautiful moment. Wonderful. I almost did cry as well. She does turn to Mama Kutsi and goes, "You have broken through the glass ceiling."
Yes.
And it's wonderful.
It's really
Chef's
sweet.
kiss. Very solid callback.
Yes. So good.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the end of the episode.
Yep.
Get a little bit more beautiful scenery.
We get more beautiful scenery. We see, a small ceremony for the Curtin family as they're finally able to lay to rest Michael. And at that ceremony, like, it's not really a funeral, but more like a memorial service, it seems. Madame Watsue takes Grace Makutsi over to the grave of her child, her baby, who was born and died the same day.
Yeah.
And so, like, they are then brought closer together because, like, they have now exposed to each other the hardest parts of themselves.
Yeah. And once again, the music in this sequence is absolutely beautiful. Highly recommend you once again check out the soundtrack. It's really is some of the best music we've heard throughout the series so far. But yeah, it's a really beautiful moment.
Yeah.
So what do we think of this one?
So this one, I think that this series is just really, really strong. All the episodes have been really quite wonderful, in the past two in particular. It wasn't my favorite yet. I loved Poison. I loved episode 3 a whole heck of a lot. It was a lot more fun. Certainly.
Yeah.
Poison was. This is heavier. This is more emotional. CCH Pounder is absolutely excellent in this, and of course the main cast. Really excellent acting all around. I think I'm gonna give it like a 7.5, 8. Really, really good stuff.
Do we do out of 10 or do we do out of 5?
Oh, we do out of 5. Sorry. Then
I was gonna say, wow, you
like
just
you
blew through
really
the...
just love it.
Yeah, loved it. Yeah, blew through the glass ceiling that is our rating system.
No, you're right. Hold on. How do I translate that? Something like a...
That'd be a 4.5, right?
Or
yeah,
4.25.
Yeah,
like an 80%?
Roughly around there. Yeah, about an 80%.
I am a little conflicted about this episode. Overall, like, it's one of those things of, like, now that we've seen enough episodes, I'm going to start grading it on the scale from not as things I've ever watched, because as far as, like, shows I've seen, it's like a 4.5. Mm-hmm. Like, it's great. The production value is fantastic. The acting is great. The writing is just great. Mm-hmm. But out of, like, the series itself, I'd probably give this, like, a 3.5. It was not my favorite. But I watch the show for different reasons than I think you all do. I really like the comedy. I like the slapstick. I think it's very funny a lot of the time. I will say the performances are just absolutely staggering. There were several times where, like, where I almost did cry and stuff like that. Like, it was really emotional. But I was also in a weird headspace when I watched this last night because, as you both know, I had a show and I was, like, preoccupied with thinking about that. So I think if I were watching it, I would watch it again. I think I'd maybe feel differently. What I think is so interesting and really, I mean, like, we do get cold opens in this series. But they're not cold opens in the same way you get with, like, Poirot or Columbo or Murder, She Wrote, where they introduce the case beforehand. Mm-hmm. And I think that formula is really interesting because we are discovering everything along with Madame Watsue, which I think is in a way that feels more genuine, where when you get to the conclusion, you're like, oh, we also figured everything out with her, because we don't have any of the clues, which I think is, this is just a point I'm bringing up. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but it is a difference, and it feels more narrative driven and character driven, because it feels like, because obviously they're based off of novels, it doesn't feel like a sort of murder of the week, if you will, like Poirot or specifically Murder, She Wrote feels like, where it's like, okay, the point of it is like the mystery. This feels more like a drama series surrounding a detective agency. Does that make sense?
I think so. I mean, I disagree, but I think I hear what you're saying.
I mean, like, what I mean to say is like yes, there are mysteries and that sort of thing, and that's a huge component, and like I understand, like, but it feels like it's more character driven than plot driven than, for example, like Murder, She Wrote, because like with us watching season 1, at least, we don't really learn too much about Jessica Fletcher. We don't know that much about Poirot, but we know that they could solve murders.
So I think that we're kind of getting into the continuing conversation of
Sure.
the difference between like procedurals and whatnot, kind of, because or like a not monster of the week but mystery of the week kind of thing. And I think that we do get them in Number One Ladies, but we also do get more character development of the main cast and more story of the main cast than we do in those other in, say, Murder, She Wrote, for instance.
Yes. And I think the difference is this. Like, for example, with the break-ins that happen in this episode, right? If it was Poirot, it would have been also solved by the end of the episode. Mm-hmm. Because each episode of Poirot is contained within that episode. Whereas this is a series, to me, watched as a whole, which I think is really unique and really fantastic. And I'm not like disparaging it. I like it a lot. It just feels so different. And I don't know. It's just something that struck me as I was watching it.
Yeah.
It feels different. And I like it a lot.
Right. You should absolutely watch this in order. Otherwise you'll be confused. Whereas you can watch Poirot or Murder, She Wrote as bottle episodes. Like, you can watch it totally out of order. I definitely did not watch Murder, She Wrote in order when I was younger.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And
absolutely.
It's totally fine. You lose nothing, virtually.
Yeah. Which is, I think, kind of indicative of, like, how television has changed over the years. You used to have a lot more, like, here's the thing of the week, and then you can just tune in, and then you can just not think about it. Whereas, like, there's a lot more. A great example is how Doctor Who and Star Trek have changed over the years. Of, like, Doctor Who used to be like, here is the monster of the week or whatever, and then when they revamped the series in the early 2000s, like, there was an overarching thing, and everything felt like a one-off, and then you learned that it all was leading to this other thing, and then that really, I don't know, it's really interesting. Like, you can't just, like, watch an episode of Breaking Bad.
No.
You know? Whereas, like, you can just,
you can.
I mean, you can.
But
like,
why?
You'll be confused.
Yeah.
Or, like, Mad Men, too. Like, you can watch, like, you can, but why would you do that to yourself? Whereas, like, you could just, throw on an episode of, like, Star Trek Next Generation and more or less go, I get it. It's just interesting how TV has changed. Anyway, Tyler, what did you think?
I give this 4 handlebars and a chaplet. Very nice. Which roughly would be a 4.25, I think. It's not my favorite episode, but I think it's super important. I do like, the more, like, broad comedy bits, but I also love, like, a good, solid case for them to be on. And while this was a good, solid case, the ending was a bit of a letdown. Like, it makes sense. Nothing rang false to me, but, like, I wish there had been, like, a murder or, like, a reason for a disappearance. And the fact that, like, he fell and broke his neck, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I see that. That makes sense. But it was like I wanted a little bit more. I wanted a little bit more grit to it.
Yes, that's
yeah.
it.
But I
Yeah, I can
also
see that.
loved, the performances in this episode in particular were so wonderfully strong and beautiful. And the title, The Boy with an African Heart. Mrs. Curtin, when first explaining the situation to Marumotsue, said that, Michael left America, like, of his own volition. Like, she and, her husband were very against the fact that he was, like, leaving for Africa. But when they started receiving, like, these letters about his time there and the fact that he said he had found his African heart, in that moment I was like, wow, what an American thing to say. Like, the arrogance of just saying, like, I found my like, come on. Like, that is so American. That is so arrogantly American to do.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, and I think I loved this. Like, it's, again, not my favorite, but I think I loved this episode because it reminded me so much of the mystery shows that I grew up watching, like Midsummer Murders. Where, it was, like, case by case, but we did go home with these detectives as well. And we learned about their process and their life outside of work. In addition to, the cases and murders that they were on. So it just seemed to be, like, just reminds me of, what I'm used to. Is like a very much, this is very much a comfort series in the same way that, like, a Midsummer Murder or the Father Brown series, which I think we'll get to at some point, where the detectives aren't, like, their lives aren't as important as the cases, but they do help inform the audience as to why they do the things that they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really appreciate that aspect about this episode.
Yeah. With both of you talking, I'll bump it up to a 4 because, like, all that stuff makes sense. And, like, it is a strength of the show that you really get to know these characters. And, like, even in that pilot, you walk away with such a good understanding of everybody and their motivations.
Yeah.
Real quick,
like,
I just wanted to add just one more thing. I forgot.
Go,
Not
Tyler,
enough JLB in this episode. We get him in one scene. We get him in one scene in this episode.
Not enough JLB, not enough BK either,
yeah.
I think.
And we get introduced to one of my favorite recurring characters in this episode. We see her in one scene. She's the maid of JLB. And she comes back, and it's
fantastic.
Boy, I can't wait for y'all to...
That's fun. Because when we meet her, she's basically serving dinner to JLB and Marumotsue, and kind of, seems really put out by it. And Marumotsue comments, and JLB says, well, she's jealous of you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But the thing I wanted to talk about was that I didn't quite fully understand the moment where Marumotsue and Andrea have that conversation about the forgiveness aspect of, like, forgiving someone because, this was an accident. This was not a murder. However, I think, and not correct me, but if you disagree, I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. But what I kind of came to understand about that is, can you forgive Clara for keeping it from you? Is the forgiveness that needed to be had?
Yeah, that's what my understanding of was. I had the same understanding.
Yeah.
I did not.
Okay.
From my understanding, at that point, she does not know that Clara was not involved somehow with hiding the body. Or keeping, like,
I see.
Because she had just she just spoken with
Ranta.
Ranta, yeah, and that's it. So, like, there's, I think she's worried that somehow Clara was involved, but I can also see that interpretation, and I think it's definitely a component of it either way, if that makes sense. Like her keeping it.
Yeah, because I had a blend of understanding between the two of you. We're just like,
okay.
I felt very similar because, like, I was like kind of getting ahead of myself in, what we knew at that moment, but like I definitely felt that like Clara had some explaining to do if she could find Clara, and if like that was sort of like, I felt like she was almost felt like a working theory at that point. She just needed to know in that moment, could she forgive if she ended up finding out that her theory was wrong.
Yeah. And at that point, Andrea does also say, the African heart, when Maramotsue makes the reference to, the cultural ideal of forgiveness that she's encouraging. So she's kind of relating it back to what her son said that he had found. So that's kind of nice, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really, and I think having the addition of an American coming in is a really great, I don't know, I think it's really great because, it's almost an insert for the audience in America that is, watching it.
Sure.
And so you kind of get a better understanding of, like, what's going on in Botswana rather than, like, you observe for the last 3 episodes or whatever what's been happening and you glean things. But, like, to have someone, like, be a kind of fish out of water for an episode, I think was a great way of adding to our understanding of what's going on.
Yeah. It's definitely not the most full of laughs, although we do get some, especially with the chickens and
the pants,
which super fun.
Which I love the broad comedy, so fun, but like it did feel weird in this episode, if that makes sense. It's like we went from like a very serious scene where people are crying to like, I don't have any pants on.
Yeah.
But that's life, right? I mean,
that is life. I've cried with no pants on, so like,
so many times. And on that note,
do we want to give a little taste of what's to come?
Mapekwane, I believe.
Yep.
Mapekwane thinks her husband has bought a stolen car. Precious is on the case and uncovers a dangerous carjacking ring. Oh no. Grace gets a new hairstyle to tackle her first case as assistant detective.
Please tell me, did you guys watch like the preview for the next episode?
No.
I don't.
Oh,
no,
gosh.
I didn't realize.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
That sounds fun. So there's a carjacking ring, so it sounds like we're going to get some JLB, and if Mama Kutsi is getting a new hairstyle, we're going to get some BK.
Yep.
So.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm looking forward. I can't wait for #1 ladies detective agency, Botswana Drift.
3 episodes left, y'all.
I know, I'm gonna be so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, gonna have to pick it at HBO. Gonna do a sit-in to get this show back on.
Get a change.org petition going.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, like, if they were smart, they would absolutely bring the show back now.
Yeah.
It would be a good time to do it.
Yeah, maybe, just maybe.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to a close. Gavel sound. Is that
Get the chicken out of here.
a chicken?
Oh.